Hey, I'm Gavin, and I wanted to talk a little bit about idolatry and Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, and marriage. And so I am a married man, and I have a level of commitment towards my wife and a level of trust towards my wife that exceeds the commitment and trust I have towards any other creature. And from the outside, from someone who is not in marriage, it may appear like I worship my wife, or that my wife worships me. And I use that word worship because all of these words, especially the abstract words like worship, are difficult for us to use in a meaningful way. And I want to connect this word worship to this idea of commitment and trust. And so a Christian can have a level of commitment and trust towards Jesus, and it appears to me that a Jew has a level of commitment and trust toward Moses, and a Muslim has a level of commitment and trust toward Muhammad. And so we have these kinds of historical figures that are no longer a creature in this world. We're left with kind of a memory of them and some kind of model, some representation of them that is somewhat flexible, that we are trying to negotiate, and can be very precious to us, and we can get upset when our representation of these historical figures, or our representation of what of the Creator itself, is somehow mistreated. And so the idolatry which is warned against is, the warning is there because if my wife starts treating me as God, she will be disappointed, because I'm a living creature in this world who makes mistakes. And anytime we begin to treat anything in this world, like whether it's some statue or some tree or shrub or a person that's in this world, like this is where the risk and the probability of causing great pain and suffering is the highest, because everything in this world is insufficient. Everything and anything in this world is insufficient. It's going to let you down, because it's I can tell you, humans are flawed, and nothing in this world is able to do everything and to be completely satisfying in every situation and at any moment. And so that's why idolatry is dangerous, and it's warned against. Now, the Jew and the Muslim can listen to a Christian say that Jesus is God, and I'll note that I have not said that. I say things like, I'm practicing making Jesus my king, and now I'm flirting with this marriage and this covenant and this trust and commitment to Jesus, similar to what I do with my wife, but even greater than that. My marriage to Jesus would be greater than the marriage I have with my wife, and that her marriage to Jesus would be greater than the marriage she has to me. We're exploring that together. And so I understand why Jews and Muslims who have been trained and warned about idolatry will hear from the Christians who say Jesus is God, and that will cause concern. And I think it's because there are wise people in relationship with God who have warned against the kind of idolatry that I'm warning you about. I'm not God. My wife is not God. The tree outside is not God. The country, the United States, is not God. It's like none of these things are, all of these things are less than God. Everything in existence, anything in existence, it's less than God. And so that's true, and wise people have warned us about that. And then we hear someone say Jesus is God, and the alarm bell goes off, and there's a lot of reasons why that Pavlovian response happens, but I think there can be an argument made for the case that, a Christian who treats Jesus as God is better off than a Christian who treats their spouse as God, or any living thing in existence. And I could make that claim. Because when we, for example, treat a historical figure as God, when we do that, we can begin to attach things onto that historical figure, so that our representation, our model of that historical figure can change and grow. And so long as we are humble and treat God as this ultimately unreachable, ineffable thing in which our relationship to God can grow, that allows for our model, our representation of God, to grow as well and improve. And so that's different than a human. A human is limited. Everything and anything in creation is limited, but these more abstract things, like that person who died and our story about that person, it's more flexible. There's a freedom there for people to grow in relationship to God despite calling God Jesus. And so you could call God Steve. There's one. What was the? You had Stephen in the New Testament, who was stoned to death by Paul. The one of the main authors of the New Testament. And old Steve. My claim would be that people could begin to treat Steve as God, and that would be better than if they were to treat this thing as God, or name your platform, mainstream media, country, ideology, political party, or anything that's in this world, and that would be better than, because we can begin to have a conversation about the story of Steve, and we can begin to borrow the best from all of the religions to grow in our relationship to God via the story of Steve. And so this can be useful because we have different ways of learning. I remember when I started working, there was a coworker who said he needed to go draw a picture on the board. And then I know that there's this phenomenon where maybe 1% to 2% of the population cannot create images in their mind. And so there's different ways of learning, and some people need things like that might be described as a shortcut or a crutch. And God made us that way, where we were born, and there are people born into this world who cannot keep up with everyone else, and can be provided with a means to be able to keep up with others. And so that's the way I'm looking at this stuff, is that, the story of Jesus that we are in relationship to can help us grow in our relationship to God and grow in our knowledge of God. That's the way it seems to me. And so it's part of the reason why I'm not, it's bothering me less when I hear people who say Jesus is God. It's bothering me less because I'm seeing how there are people doing that, and then they are becoming more godly. They become people who are behaving in better ways. They're no longer like engaging in prostitution and murder and theft and mistreatment of others, and it's good. And so I don't want to discourage that, and I can see that. I don't know. I've heard it said that Christianity is like simple mathematics, and Judaism is like algebra. And for me, it's like, I love the God that is available to everyone. And and I love that Jesus would go after the lost sheep, the ones who are disabled, who are sick, and can then make God accessible to those people as well. And why would I get angry at a God who would allow people to worship Jesus or Steve and grow in their relationship to God? It's like, that's beautiful to me. Like, that's my God which is loving and merciful and forgiving, and that does not care that to receive the credit, cares more for the relationship than you calling them by the wrong name. Have you ever done that? Have you ever like called somebody by the wrong name and you felt bad about it? Or have you had people call you the wrong name? It's like, and what rises in you? And imagine that you were close to God. What should arise in you when someone uses your name incorrectly and calls you by the wrong name? And my claim would be that you would be merciful and forgiving and loving towards the people who call you the wrong name. What you want is that there would be the opportunity for the relationship to grow. And maybe they never know my name completely, but maybe we learn how to dance together and play together and laugh together. It makes me want to cry. So, whew.